Welcome to Sahara TV. On the program today, we cast a spotlight on the protracted political crisis in Ondo State. We aim to delve into the various dimensions of the political impasse in the Ondo State, including the roles of key figures, legal considerations, and the impact on governance and political stability in the state. With us to look into this is a political commentator, Mr. Ogundamisi. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The governor's absence, Governor Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, has been absent from the state for several months. This has led to a paralyzed state. Can you provide us with details from your perspective of the impact of the governor's absence in the state?
Thank you. So let's provide a bit of a background. So you have Ondo State is in southwest Nigeria. The Southwest is known to have been very vocal when it comes to flagrant abuse of office, impunity, abuse of the Constitution. Now, let us dig it down to Ondo State. This is a state that has produced the likes of Gani Fawehinmi, Adekunle Ajasin, and quite a number of people to date that you would say are quite conscious in terms of what is expected of their governors or elected officials. Now you now have the state with an absent governor. So first, I'd like to say that we're all human. We all fall sick. We're not made out of wood. You know, no one is destined to live forever. We can fall sick at any point in time. And when you are employed in any civil service or any public sector, there's a provision for sick leave. If it stretches to the point where you are going to be sick almost indefinitely, an employer will say, okay, you know, we'll step aside and probably get someone from the agency to take over your role. The company will not stop because you are ill or you're unavailable to work. So I'm trying to simplify, first bring it to the level of just vis-a-vis private employment. Now, take it to the chief executive of the state. Arakunrin was ill. He traveled to Germany, handed over to his deputy. Then he came back to say, look, I'm back in office. I'm back in the country. I'm okay now to govern the state. That's quite commendable, but there is a snag. Since he returned from Germany, he has not been seen in Ondo State. He has not stepped his feet on Ondo State. So we're talking about going to 3 months now. He has been residing in Ibadan or your state. For anyone who knows the geography of Southwest Nigeria, there's a border between Oyo and Ondo. So it's not like as if he's in Osun State or he's in Edo State that you say a neighboring state. He's gone above another territory towards another. And this is someone who rightly is a champion of true federalism.
Yeah.
So he's been out of the state since he came back from Germany for about 3 months. Before that, he's been ill for maybe about 7 months. So technically, Ondo State has been left ungoverned because even when he handed over to his deputy, the deputy was more or less non-functional.
Yeah.
So while we all pray that for his full return, you know, we also the states cannot afford to keep waiting for him.
Okay.
He needs to get to the point where the state assembly would have to either swear in his deputy to act as governor. It's simple, it's straightforward. You know, he appointed his deputy governor. We didn't appoint his deputy governor, you know. He must have some sort of confidence for him to say, okay, this is the man that will deputize for me in the case of, in cases like this. So our call as indigents of that state and as Nigerians is that the right thing should be done. The state assembly should do the needful, swear in the deputy governor as an acting governor, pending when the governor would return to the state. Because right now, Ondo State just has a ghost governor. Mind you, he has not spoken to the state verbally. He has not communicated to the state on radio. What you have is kitchen members of his cabinet signing millions of naira, claiming it came from the governor. You have family members bringing documents in to say the governor has, remember his son is also a member of the cabinet.
Cabinet, yeah.
So you would have a son with some members of the kitchen cabinet go to Ibadan and then come back and say in the state and say, this is what the governor has said. And that is it. You can't govern by proxy.
Proxy. It's quite ridiculous. We're still going to get touch on that. And thank you for giving us that overview. The question still remains, Kayode, what impact has his absence actually, caused on the political landscape and the governance in Ondo State itself?
See, for those who know Ondo State very well, it's a state where almost 70% of the citizens are reliant on employment from the state government. It's more or less a civil service state. From people I speak to on the ground, people don't go to office anymore.
That's ridiculous.
People don't, the state is literally dead. Nothing is moving. Nothing is happening. If you go to Akure, contractors are not, they're not doing what they are paid to do because the governor is not there. There's nobody there. There's nobody supervising them. You know, there is lack of progress in the state. If you go to, let's leave Akure, go to the other senatorial zones, go to where the governor comes from. Everything is in a state of comatose. The only thing that is moving in the state are basically political appointees able to receive their pays unhindered, able to crisscross between Lagos, Ibadan, and Abuja, doing their own thing. The state is on a standstill. So the impact is quite huge. Absence of government, absence of supervisory, executive supervisory capacity from the chief executive that is elected. You know, between the state of insecurity has increased. Everyone is just running riots.
That's quite ridiculous.
So it's got huge negative impact on the state.
Yeah. So earlier on, you mentioned the fact that some cabinet members are actually benefiting from the governor's absence and governing the state as proxies. Can you provide more information on who these individuals are and how they are allegedly exploiting the situation for personal gain?
So you see, it's quite clear. I always use the term conflictpreneurs. Conflictpreneur is people who benefit when there are conflicts. So if you have cabinet members, right, acting as spokespersons and kitchen cabinet for the governor, and they are saying the governor has said, without any evidence, without any no visual evidence that the governor has said. So these members of the cabinet, particularly members of the cabinet, includes the son of the governor, who is the arrowhead. You know, they are basically the ones governing the state. The deputy governor had made it clear that he's not in charge. He said it many times that he's not in charge. And all we're saying is you're members of the same political party. People are not saying that the governor should be impeached, but that the constitution is quite clear. And if Akeredolu were to be with us today, he will be at the forefront of campaigning that the right thing should be done.
Exactly.
Then this is not the first time. This is not the first time we're witnessing this kind of thing. During the Yar'Adua saga, he was the NBA president.
Yeah.
He was at the forefront of Yar'Adua and the cabal doing the right thing, so that government should be handed over to the deputy vice president, Goodluck Jonathan.
You're right about that. And the Constitution is quite clear about this, about the governor's incapacity. Could you elaborate on the specific constitutional provision? I know you're not the legal practitioner. I mean, yes, relevant to the governor's absence and the transfer of power.
Yeah, I always avoid going into the, laying claims to know things I don't know when it comes to the legal aspect of issues, but I can only speak for precedents.
Yeah.
That during the time of Jonathan, there was the introduction of the doctrine of necessity.
Exactly.
And the reason why you don't even have to be a lawyer to know that the reason why you always have a deputy is that in the absence of, if the principal is incapacitated, there should be someone in acting capacity. You don't even need, this is beyond even legal. This is a moral, the moral fiber of the current governor and his family members and his kitchen cabinet should tell them that it is not right that a state like Ondo, or any state in particular in Nigeria, should be governed by a ghost. It is not right. You cannot keep some. And look, we might actually be doing this from Akeredolu, because there's no confirmation that even the governor himself is aware of what is happening around him. In instances where they have tried to demonstrate that the governor is okay, they create a charade of visits of Southwest governor going to visit him in Ibadan. They got to Ibadan. There is no video, only photographs. And where there are videos, the governor did not say a word. So it just creates these suspicions within the state and amongst Nigerians that what is happening. And the painful thing about this is that the Southwest was the most vocal about this when it happened to Yar'Adua, when it happened to Suntai in Taraba.
Thanks so.
And if we don't mount pressure on this cabal, we are setting a very bad precedent. Let me give you a very typical example. If President Tinubu, God forbid, should fall ill tomorrow, and he travels to Germany or France, and he does not, and we're being told that he can govern from any part of the world, so he's not going to hand over to his deputy Shetima, his vice Shetima, or it's just by mere word of mouth, we're told that he's all right. How do you think Nigerians would react? When former President Buhari was in London, he handed over to his vice president. So you don't even have to look at the particular section. The man on the street is not bothered about those particular sections, but the man on the street knows that I have not had a governor for 7 months, and the deputy is not on seat. And the cabinet members and family members are laying claim that this is what the governor is saying should happen in the state. So it's governed by proxy. And Ondo State doesn't have an official policy where public officials are permitted to work from home permanently. If that is the case, if the governor can be in Ibadan indefinitely, then civil servants should be able to stay at home indefinitely and claim they are working from home. And let me give you a very good example. In Abia State, the governor is working from his personal property in his village, right? And he moves from his personal property to his office. That is understandable. You can see him. You can see him awarding contracts. You can see him inspecting projects. You can see him broadcasting to the state within the territory of Abia State. Because the governor said, Alex Otti said, I am not going to spend millions on renovating the government house. Do you see anybody crying and saying, no, you must be in the government house? So what stopped Akeredolu's property in Owo is a mansion. The state government house is the state government house that hosted particularly Ajashin and other great governors from that state. It's big enough to accommodate him. So this excuse that there is no, isn't it a shame that you've been a governor for almost going to 8 years, and you say there is nowhere comfortable enough for me to stay in Ondo State, so I must be in Ibadan or your state.
It's quite absurd, to say the least. Over the weekend, we saw President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at playing a host to a meeting of the factions in the protected political crisis. The factions in the political crisis were said to have reached a truce after the meeting brokered by the president, which brought about the doctrine of necessity as it was in 2010, which you referred to. But part of the resolution was the fact that the status quo remains, and Governor Rotimi Akeredolu remains in office, and the deputy governor should no longer fear impeachment. Nigerians are actually miffed at how can Mr. President support the flagrant constitutional violation by a governor? I mean, your reaction to this?
First, let me say that's a political intervention. You asked, what's the process? The process is, in the absence of the governor, the State House Assembly, first, the cabinet members have the power, right?
Yeah.
To call on an independent medical assessor or somebody to check if the government is okay or not. If it's not, they can collectively decide, the governor is not okay, the deputy should. In the absence of that, the State House of Assembly, by a simple majority, can get the acting governor to her. In the absence of that, some group were able to submit a letter today asking the Chief Justice of the state to compel the State House of Assembly to do the right thing. Now, those are the right way to go about it, because we operate a federation. The president of the country is not an Oba or a KBAC that has the power to say, you must do this, you must do that, this is what should happen, but we must also not be naive and acknowledge that there are political angles to this. They are members of the same political party. And you would expect that when the president invited them to Aso Rock as a Democrat and someone who was involved in pro-democracy, he will be saying to them, do the right thing and follow the Constitution and the letter of the law. You, State of Assembly, do what the law says. That is what you expect of the president. But no, the president, the communique, as read by the spokesperson to the president, was that the status quo should remain. That is, Akeredolu should remain in Ibadan till whenever he decides he wants to come to Ondo State, and continue to govern our state from Oyo State. It is quite unfortunate. And people say sometimes I can be cynical. I suspect that why Nigerians should be suspicious of the president of the country, right, encouraging illegality, is what if it happens to the president himself? It's meaning the president himself, Tinubu, is sending us a signal that if it happens in his own case, they are going to maintain the status quo. He is going to govern us from wherever. We're not praying that he falls ill, but we're saying that if it happens to him, this is what he expects his cabinet members. He's sending a signal to his own kitchen cabinet members that if this happens as is happening to Akeredolu, this is what should happen. Shetima should not be the acting president. The status quo ante. And I'm quite disappointed that the president did not insist that the right thing should be done.
Let's talk about the public perceptions and reactions. One will have expected that there will have been there has actually been widespread concerns, but are we likely to see protests regarding the state of affairs in the state? And we just received reports now that the crisis continued to brew as some members of the State House of Assembly are aligning with the pro-deputy governor's camp. What do you think will unfold? I mean, as events continue to unfold.
You see, this is the direct message to the APC and those who love Ondo State and to the president. I know my state. It takes a while for them to react. If you look at the crisis of the MPM Omobirio saga, if this boils down to the point, there's another angle of this. There's this angle, perception in the state that the reason why the Akeredolu kitchen cabinet do not want to hand over to the deputies because it's from the minority tribe in those states. How do you make an Elijah man acting governor? It's from the Southern Senatorial District. And there's the agitation in the state. Just for the records, I'm not from that part. I'm from Akoko. You know, the perception that if that part of the state feel that the legitimate way it just felt that Jonathan, the only reason Jonathan was being denied of his constitutional right to be acting president was because of where he's coming from. It's the same way people from that side are feeling now. So you can get to the point where there will be divisions, there will be tribal suspicions within the state. And this is why the writing needs to be done.
Let's talk about the long-term effects. And in hindsight, how do you assess the long-term effect of this political logjam on the state's political landscape as well as governance? And will this episode lead to any change in the state's political landscape as far as succession is concerned?
I think it is going to create more divisions within the state. You know, it is going to create the perception that, you know, there are some parts of the states that should produce governor. There are some parts of the states that can never and should not produce a governor for the state. It will. I'm also quite worried about the impact on Akeredolu's legacy. This is a former NBA president, a pro-democracy activist. He's represented a lot of progressive in cases to seek justice so that our constitution should be respected and built. He, you know about the Amotekun, he was at the forefront, you know, that states have the right to form a security network to be able to protect their people in the absence of federal government not doing what they need to do, you know. It was at the forefront of when in the Goodluck Jonathan Yaradua saga, you know, the impact on his own legacy is quite huge, negatively, if things are not done rightly. Then the impact, because if it happens in Ondo State and if it's allowed to go ahead in Ondo State, then it's a free-for-all. This precedence will be followed in any other states of the Federation.
And that is why that should not be allowed. How complicit is the ruling party itself with regards to this crisis in the state? Considering the fact that elections is just next year in the state, how will this affect the political chances of the party in the state come 2024?
You'll be shocked if I say to you that the only reason the APC is misbehaving in Ondo State as it is, even with this issue, is because of the absence of a credible opposition. Not just the absence of credible opposition, the absence of elders who should speak in the time of crisis. Otherwise, you'll be asking yourself, where is Mimiko?
Exactly.
Where are the former governors? Where are the elders?
Yeah.
Where are the Afenifere
Mm-hmm.
people who found their voices, during the last election?
Yeah.
How come they are all quiet, you know? And my answer to that is because it's happening to their friend.
Hmm.
So they have put the interest and the relationship they have with Akeredolu over and above the progress of Ondo State,
Hmm. Hmm.
and which is quite unfortunate. Just reflect for a minute and ask yourself if this were to be happening in Lagos.
Oh
What
no.
would have been the reaction? Or if it were to be happening in Anambra State or Enugu State? And the media are also complicit in this. Particularly the Southwest Zone media are complicit. They are not giving this issue the publicity it deserves. It's a constitutional crisis that is happening within the Federation of Nigeria in the Southwest region. So there are just so many things, that are going, and the other luck the ruling party have in the state is that, I said to you that our state is basically a civil service state. Everybody is reliant on salary. For as long as their salaries are being paid, it does not matter whether the roads are abandoned. It doesn't matter whether there's insecurity. So I don't think there's an opposition strong enough to threaten the ruling party. Let me put it this way. The election is for the ruling party to win or lose next year. If there's an emergence of a third force and a coalition, you can say that, yes, this would have a negative impact on them. But I also want to say that our state is a state that has always changed leadership, when they feel that this is enough, Mimiko lost. It's moved from Labour Party to PDP to ACN, APC, and everything. So they rejected Akeredolu during his first attempt, and they accepted him during his second attempt and his re-election. So it's quite difficult to predict, but the bottom line is there are no credible opposition within the state. The opposition are within the same ruling political party, but quite a number of them, I must say, are just looking at where things are going to sway before they pick their tent.
Considering this political impasse, what, from your perspective, should be the way out of this logjam, in order not to impact too negatively on the state itself? Your views on it?
The way out are quite simple. The constitution is just clear. It's very clear. The cabal should stop holding on to the governor. They should let the governor be, let him take care of himself. If Akeredolu comes back to Ondo State tomorrow, that's the first day. If he gets back to Ondo State today, makes a broadcast to the people and resumes work, that's the end of the matter. That is it. None of us, we are not concerned. If they like to impeach his deputy, that's their business, that's their internal politics. But if the governor resumes today, that's the end of the matter. But in the absence of the governor, then they need to hand over to the deputy governor as an acting governor until the man is well and he returns back to the state. But I say people should continue to talk about this, and I'm quite glad a lot of people from Ondo State are now speaking out. Before, I think I started on this issue almost literally about when he went to Germany was when I started saying something is not right. But now some of us are no longer that lone voice. There are more people talking about it. And we want more activists from Ondo State to make this a priority, that you cannot continue to pontificate about issues in other parts of Nigeria. And when it's happening in your home state, you keep quiet. And it's quite painful to some of us because of our personal relationship with even some of the cabinet members and the governor himself. But at some point, you put that personal relationship aside and insist that the right thing should be done in the interest of the state. Today, if we are going to talk about Akeredolu's performance in Ondo State, it will just defeat, it will politicize the whole issue. And that's why we're restricting ourselves to the issue of the fact that he has left, he has abandoned his state, and he needs to be very open to his people. And we're being consistent because some of us personally led protests during the time of Yar'Adua in favor of Jonathan, that Yar'Adua and his cabal must do the right thing. So we're not doing anything new. We're continuing that tradition that where there's a sign that a leader or an elected official is trying to abuse his power against the interest of the people that elected him, people should speak out. So we're hoping that Governor Akeredolu would return to the state or hand over power to his deputy through the National State Assembly. But I just need to let you know that I'm so pleased that there are quite a number of people working behind the scene. A group just submitted a letter to the Chief Justice today, saying in the absence of the House of Assembly not doing the right thing, can you please compel them to do what is right? That is the best option. In terms of public protest, I don't want a breakdown of law and order in Ondo State. And I'm aware that politicians who have interest in this will be sponsoring people on both sides of the divide. And you know this. I don't know how well familiar you're with the state. Ondo State people don't protest in carrying flag and singing and go back home. It can degenerate. It can degenerate. And that is why all stakeholders must not let it get to the point where people will hit the streets.
We hope that Governor Akeredolu will come clean and temporarily vacate office until fit to govern again. Thank you so much, Mr. Ogundamisi, for your insightful perspective.
Thank you. And before I go, I just say, look, we wish him well. We want him. We don't want him. We don't wish ill health on him. We want him back in the state. We're all human. I said it in another platform. I'm speaking today. I might go to bed today and not wake up tomorrow. So it's nothing personal. We just want him to do the right thing.
I'm sure
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. I'm sure many the state indigenous also share the same sentiment. Thank you so much, Mr. Gowdy, for your insight.
Thank you.
All right.